clearly things changed after the 2G and when Aircel Maxis audit happened. We are not only talking about Aircel Maxis here. I have documents with me to prove which proves that at least 11 audit reports had to be tabled in the winter session of the Parliament in 2013. And there was a specific request that was sent to the CAG's office to table 11 reports, including the Aircel Maxis report, which was supposed to have been tabled in winter session, and permission was denied. Now, this particular note, a copy of which is available with Republic TV, even you have also been marked a copy of that. The question here is, why was permission denied to table 11 reports in the winter session in 2013?
I think that point of time my view was taken in the headquarters that maybe perhaps that was not the right time to come out with such reports, because some of them were pointing it out certain shortcomings on the part of the department, and some of them were virtually against the judgment given by the Honorable Supreme Court in 2012. So certain cases were there. So maybe at that point of time it was thought that it would be better that being the constitutional body, the organization remains non-partisan.
2014 begins with a one-point plan for the Congress. The general elections are just 6 months away. The party wants to see Rahul Gandhi projected as a Prime Minister. And the last thing they need is the weight of 11 more damning scams.
If you remember, this is a period, 2013-2014 was a period when elections were around the corner. So this was politically, this was a very important period. So at any given point in time, did the former CAG actually tell you that elections are around the corner and it's probably not the right time to get these reports tabled in the Parliament?
You see, frankly, as a field officer, when your entire reports, I mean, we had sent 11, 12 cases, and mind it, I am telling you again, such number of cases, particularly for the Department of Telecommunications, do not come very often. And I can tell you with some amount of sincerity that our humility also, in the last 15 years there has never been a single year when so many cases were pointed out in such a short period of time to the headquarter office, and when those cases were discussed in the headquarter office in the presence of the entire board, and in spite of entire board, when I say means all the officers of the CAG, the deputy CAG and the DG, the concerned DG who are dealing with, and while the meeting went off very well, we were really happy that things have all gone clear, and maybe perhaps we would be getting the approval. Then all of a sudden we get a communication from the headquarter office next day that all cases are being delayed. Then one was a bit surprised, and one did try to inquire about what could be the reasons for, because the previous day only things had been discussed in great depth for 3 hours. And then one got the impression that perhaps people, top management is thinking that maybe perhaps this is not right time to cover those cases and it would influence the maybe perhaps elections, forthcoming elections.
Top management in the sense, who else could it be other than the CAG?
I think it's for you to infer.
You were told that elections are around the corner, and perhaps, as you rightly said, you mentioned the word elections. So you were informed by the senior most persons in the CAG that elections were around the corner and this is not the right time to table the reports? Am I right if I say that?
Yes, I did try to inquire, and you see, above Director General there are only 1 or 2 officers, so it's not that there are many who direct on any decisions. That was the impression given to me, and the impression given to me was in very, very clear terms.
So clearly this impression could not have been given without the knowledge of the CAG?
Absolutely no.
Absolutely no.
Absolutely no. There is no question of that.
Since the Radia tapes, the biggest charge against the Manmohan Sonia government was crony capitalism. The Aircel Maxis scam that directly indicted Chidambaram's son Karthi was the Congress party's biggest worry at the time. Somehow they had to hide the truth, or at least tone it down. That is what R.B. Sinha says actually happened.
Which is very shocking, because if you see, the CAG is a constitutional authority, and the CAG's office is supposed to be apolitical. So why does it really matter to the CAG if elections are round the corner or not round the corner?
I think you ask him better. In what way I can answer. Being a subordinate officer, you simply can't question the reason behind it. But then I did try to elicit, because it had involved a huge amount of work. And those cases were badly delayed. Then some of them were printed finally in 2015. May 2015. You see, even they were not covered in 2014 on one plea or the other. And when it was covered in 2015, many of them have not been even printed afterwards.
Which means at least, I guess, at least 5 or 6 reports must have been printed, but then 6 to 7 reports are still pending. At least 6 reports.
No. I think 5 or 6 were printed. Thereafter, subsequently, also in 2016, 1 or 2 have been printed.
ASL Maxis has still not been.
And ASL Maxis has not been printed. But in certain cases, drastic reduction was there, a drastic curtailment was there. I protested. I gave in written the communication. I asked the CAG office, including the deputy CAG, saying that my letters would be put up before CAG for consideration, because he had talked to me on more than one occasion. This is a relevant case wherein the drastic reduction was made. But
drastic reduction in the sense you have been asked basically to tone down a report.
I think yes, different kind of the hints were given, certainly given, and then finally, to which my office didn't agree. And we sent our report, detailed report, and thereafter that detailed report, without giving any reasons on record, were removed and drastically reduced, taking out the names of the company, taking out the cases, instances of forgery and all those things. Without.
My God, you're actually saying that at the behest of certain corporate houses and also at the behest of certain political parties. So these are cases where political parties are involved, or politicians are involved, or corporate houses are involved. And in such cases, you were basically asked, in some of these cases, you were asked to tone down your report and probably not mention the names of certain people or certain companies. Is that what you're saying?
If you allow me to say, you see, there has been cases where presses in certain cases, there is no doubt about that. We have right since early 2014, when one of the draft reports came in some other case, there had been the request that you meet this person or that person. That person's concerned became secretary of the department afterwards. So it's pretty high senior level officers, those who came all the way to my office to request me to, and all these meetings were organized at the highest level. We listened to everybody. The listening is nothing, no wrong, but then we couldn't agree. And wherever we agreed, we accommodated. But then but in many cases, we couldn't agree to the evidence given, because we had the counter evidences.
So to put it simply, the UPA government, in one cold, swift move, buried 11 deadly scams. It was a sinister plot. While the Congress quietly put the scams in the coffin,
I was the one who insisted that spectrum allocations should be transparent.
Manmohan went around whitewashing the UPA's completely tarnished image.
Whole block allocations should be allocated on the basis of auctions.
Mr. Sinha, but what is most important is we have documents to prove that there were 11 reports. There were 11 reports, which means that probably there were 11 scams hidden in those pages of those audit reports, which were supposed to be tabled in the winter session of the parliament and in 2013, and it never saw the light of the day because of pressure, because of election, and maybe the CAG's office wanted to be on the right side of the political party or the ruling disposition at that time. But if you see, who actually takes these decisions? Who actually took the decision to put everything into the cold storage? You've hinted that it came from the topmost person, none other than the CAG himself.
I didn't say that.
But I mean, you asked me to infer, and
it's for the
who takes these calls in the CAG? If not the CAG, who else can take these calls?
I can't say on that anything.
Such decisions are usually taken by the topmost person?
In the hierarchy of the CAG, after CAG, there are the set of officers called as deputy CAG, and deputy CAG, each deputy CAG is assigned certain
But they generally go by
sector.
what the CAG says, the deputy CAGs?
It's a normal hierarchy. I mean, nothing particular about the CAG office. It's any other department secretary, additional secretary, joint secretary, deputy secretary. It's this.
But you were summoned. The slight hints were passed. You had to meet the CAG multiple times. Obviously, there was some pressure.
Pressure, you see, I won't use the word pressure. Yes, I was asked, at that point of time. Certainly, after working for 6 months, 6 or 7, 8 odd months, it's not one man work, it's the entire office work. There are several teams were constituted. It's not that overnight work. And maybe 50 people, maybe 80 people, 70, 80 people have worked day and night. Then they produce the report. And then we issue it to the concerned government department, get their response. Then we prepare the case and ask for the inclusion in the report. So it has a set procedure. Normally, what happens that you get on each case, either its case is approved or you get some clarification, some comments on that to further improve the case. That happens normally. But it had never happened in my 27 or 28 years service till at that time, or 30 years service, I say, in 2030, that all the cases in bulk returned back with certain observations which were factually not correct. Because those 11 cases were of different types, and they were all clubbed together on paper as if they were one.
Now, could this have taken place without the knowledge of the CAG?
I doubt. I don't think anybody would have that kind of. I think yes. Here I can't. I agree with you. Without his knowledge, it wouldn't have been done.
Now comes the most shocking allegation. It rips apart the last veneer of propriety. R.B. Sinha alleges that ministers were directly calling the CAG with instructions.
Your report, basically there was a request to tone down your report from 70 pages to 70 or 80 pages to 10 pages. That's what you just said. But also you also made a very important point that the CAG actually, the former CAG actually told you that he used to receive calls. So where are these calls coming from? Is it from politicians also?
You see,
will I be wrong if I say that politicians used to call the CAG?
Politicians,
Ministers?
Maybe ministers, yes. And maybe twice or thrice he did mention in certain cases that there people have been approaching, including ministers. And 2 or 3 cases, yes, he did tell me.
And obviously, because of that reason, he was under pressure. It's not his self-induced decisions, but these were all the influencing and everything happened because he was under pressure from political.
You see, ex-CAG Sarma Sahib is a very nice person, very good human being. I tell you very clearly, he is a very down-to-earth person, very nice to go along with. At times, I had the feeling that those people who were taking advantage of his goodness.
You mean to say the ministers?
Yeah, maybe good, or anybody else, even some of the colleagues. Because in one case, I specifically remember that he rang up somebody in my presence to get somebody sent to me, because he wanted me to meet the concerned officer who was fairly senior to me. And the officer concerned who was senior to me from the civil service came all the way along with the office to meet me in my office and met me for 2 hours, more than 2 hours.
Republic is putting out this story because this perhaps reveals the scam of scams. In our view, it raises 4 super critical questions. 1. Misuse of constitutional office. 2. Suppression of evidence. 3. Misleading of the Parliament of India. 4. Institutionalizing